Knights of Outer Ren, episode 8. It's me, Magnus, and him, Joshua.
Hello there.
Utrecht. Joshua
Hello there.
Utrecht.
That's my best Obi-Wan Kenobi impression.
Yeah. Oh.
Hello
I'm sorry. Do that again.
Hello there.
Oh, hello there. Yes, that's pretty good, actually. It's pretty good. Yeah. So this is episode 8. We're gonna see how quickly we can do this because we started a little bit late, and I'm not saying whose fault it is, but it's not mine. It's not mine. It is yours. No, it is yours. I wasn't gonna say anything, but once you start saying it's not your fault, it is 100% your fault.
110.
Yeah. So our first discussion this week is going to be, does Empire Strikes Back suck? That's our first point of discussion. What do you think? Does the Empire Strikes Back suck?
Yeah, I think it's the worst movie ever made.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. Of course
all
not.
Time, right? All time. Oh.
Yeah, of all time. Of course it doesn't suck.
Oh.
In my opinion, it's the best Star Wars movie and one of the greatest movies of all time.
Oh.
As of yet.
Okay. Because usually, like, I see this, like, on Reddit or I see this in forums, and they'll be like, and they'll just come up with a movie. They'll be like, does it actually suck? And then all of a sudden, you'll find, like, 9 million people having this discussion. Like, what? Actually, it does suck. Like, does The Force Awakens suck? Yeah, actually, it does suck. And you're just like, as soon as you entertain the question, then all of a sudden, it's a thing. Like, all you have to do is make a video that says, like, it actually sucks. It's actually the worst movie. And then it just is.
10 reasons why it sucks.
Yeah, 10 reasons why The Empire Strikes Back is the worst movie. And by the way, you could easily, and we've talked about this before, you could easily pick apart The Empire Strikes Back and really begin to unravel that whole movie. And I'm saying it's not even difficult. Like, it will not take effort to find major problems with that movie. But the thing is, don't do it. Don't wreck a movie for yourself. Like, to find, I always bring up Avatar. When people say, like, it's like Fern Gully or something, and I'm like, it is not. Like, it's not even close. But because you find one little element, or Pocahontas, they'll say, like, oh, it's just Pocahontas. And again, no, it's not. Just because something shares a similarity in an element, that doesn't make it that. And so they'll say, like, well, Empire Strikes Back is the most unique. It really isn't, because the reason they actually brought in Kasdan was the original version of the script was so weird that they were no.
Leigh Brackett, wasn't it?
Yeah, Leigh Brackett, who unfortunately passed away before she could. It was a great sci-fi writer. She unfortunately passed away before she could write a second version of it. And what's actually exciting is I think we're going to get, like, the really weird movie in The Last Jedi that maybe Leigh Brackett was going to be making with Empire Strikes Back. But again, it was too weird and too strange, and it was too different from A New Hope. So they brought in Kasdan to basically say, like, make it kind of more like A New Hope. And there are actually reviews of the movie where the reviewers, we've kind of, over time, we only know the reviews that came after 1980. But there were reviews that actually bitched that the movie was too much like A New Hope. I'm serious about that. Like, if you haven't read those reviews...
to go back and read. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and read.
There's a couple of old reviews. If you actually only take the original reviews of Empire Strikes Back, it was worse reviewed than Revenge of the Sith.
Wow.
As a collective. So, yeah, critics originally did not love The Empire Strikes Back. Only a few critics actually saw it for what it was. Most of the critics were like, why didn't George Lucas direct this? It doesn't feel as fresh and fun, and it's just a rehash of A New Hope. Like, seriously, there are reviews out there that call it a rehash. Wow. So, no, Empire Strikes Back does not suck.
To me, it's completely different. I don't...
I know. But that's what happens.
It's a natural evolution in the story, isn't there? And the effects and everything. You know, it's you see this progression in how things with each film got better.
Yeah.
Compared to what they were when they originally made it. And I think also the thing is with the original trilogy is George didn't really have a clue where he was going with it. You know, he knew it was going to be about this father-son thing, didn't he? He said about that. But, you know, when you look at A New Hope and then you look at the Empire, you know, Empire, there's so many things that if you really did look at it and you were going to be judgmental and you weren't just going to enjoy Star Wars for what it is and what it was,
right.
Then if you're going to be a film critic and you're going to sit there and go, well, that doesn't work against that, and that made no sense because, you know, Leia, Luke, you know, in Empire, and they turn out to be
exactly, especially that whole thing where they go, there is another. That is probably the biggest problem with the whole movie, is that he says there is another, and you get you get the sense. Well, he was supposed to be referencing someone entirely different.
Entirely different, yeah.
And we know that already from the making of, you know. So, you know, there's all this stuff that goes into it, and
ultimately it all works out. It all works out at the end of the trilogy. It ties up lovely. You put a nice little bow on it, and it all works. And they stand the test of time, which to me is the most important thing about films.
I agree.
That is the absolute most important thing. If I watch a film and it's fucking great, and then, you know, say in 10 years' time, I just don't even bother to put it on again because I just have no interest in it, then, you know, it kind of hasn't really done its job for me. But I continue to go back. I continue to sit here and talk, to sit there and watch and speculate and enjoy Star Wars for what it was, you know, before I was even born. So it works for me. It all works.
You could pick anything apart and find problems with it. And the reason that people do this, you know, does Empire suck, or does Avatar suck, or does, you know, The Force Awakens suck? It's because those movies became so huge that the kind of malignant personalities that feel the need to belittle anything that's popular have to come out of the woodwork. And, you know, and I always call attention to that red letter media thing. It took them an entire fucking year to put that video out because they had to spend enough time to pick it apart. It's so ridiculous. 2-hour video to fucking pick apart something. That's you trying way too hard to convince people that the best reviewed, seriously, it's the best reviewed of all the Star Wars movies. Don't look at the fucking, you know, the reviews of The Empire Strikes Back, please. That's so fucking bullshit. The fact that people are reviewing that movie, you know, 30 years later is ridiculous to me. I'm talking about initial reviews. It is so much better reviewed than Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, or even A New Hope was well reviewed. It's actually, it had the reverse, where it's gotten some negative reviews along the way.
And of course, all the changes that were made, you know, and the special editions and everything.
Yeah, which I think is unfair.
I mean, it's not a different film to what it was, but it's got a lot of differences in it. But that was ultimately,
I also think it's unfair that they re-reviewed The Phantom Menace because the 3D version came out. And so it actually knocked the score below 60%, which knocked it from fresh to below fresh. It was actually at like 65%. Now it's like at 50-something%. And now Attack of the Clones has a better, because it wasn't released as a 3D officially, so it was never officially re-reviewed. I think that's so fucking unfair to the Phantom Menace.
You know what that is? You know what that is, don't you? That's people who enjoyed it the first time they went to watch it and reviewed it for what it was, for how they felt. And then over time, they've heard the criticisms and they've started to go, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, right, actually. Yeah, right. And they completely change their opinions. So when they go back to rewatch it or re-review it, they then give it negative opinions.
But I also think that reviews, if you're ever going to have reviews, critical reception taken seriously, it's got to be an in-the-moment thing. You cannot have it shaped. Like, I think there should be a time frame where you can put out a review, and then after that, it is not counted by Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic or any of these things.
No,
if your review comes out within 2 weeks of the movie, fine.
Yeah.
If it comes out after that, fuck you, you are not counted. And I think that's how it should be. These fucking reviews of movies 50 years later is ridiculous, man. It should be about the moment.
Opinions change. I mean, my opinions change all the time on films, all the time. I mean, I have my criticisms about The Force Awakens, but over time, actually, being given that time to sit with it at home and watch it, I love it and value the film now more than I did, say, 6 months ago.
Right.
But it doesn't mean I would go back and review it and say, no, I think this, because it's just unnecessary. What mattered was
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And I
first
think
time round,
I think that's part of the thing too, is like when the movie comes out, right? This is actually a good criticism of the special editions, even though I think most of the changes to the special editions make the movie better because they
yeah,
upgrade some of the effects. I think there's a very good argument for the special editions to say, if you, and there was this rumor this week about the original cut coming out, which I don't believe, but it came from making Star Wars, so I want to believe it, but there's several reasons we can talk about that if you want, but
that's
the
a
problem here
complicated
is that
situation
once
with
you
that
put
one.
out a special edition, you're saying like, oh, we got to redo, and I feel like if you have a redo, you better not get rid of the original cuts, because the original cuts are, and this is my argument for why critics, who put out reviews long after, it shouldn't work that way, is these are moments in time. You don't get a redo. You don't get to go back and fix it. Now, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit technically got a redo because Tolkien went back and fixed a problem with that book, which
Right.
was great because Lord of the Rings introduces this one ring of power. In the
Right.
Hobbit, it's just an invisibility ring. So he went back years
And he,
later, over a decade
right.
later, and changed it.
Oh, wow, I
So
didn't know.
yeah, because otherwise it was just a trinket. It was just a trinket ring. It wasn't that big of a deal. He had to make it more important. So he actually Lucased the one ring of power in the Hobbit.
Wow.
And so these things, but I feel like if you then say, oh, the other version doesn't exist, I think it's important that if you make that change, if you've released it to the public, at that point, any change you make after that is not as valid. That's how I look at it. And
Yeah.
I feel like if you have to, and we're going to get into a word here, retcon. Retcon does not mean what 99% of people think it means. And this is why it's so important that words mean things. And we live in a society now where people just they just define things the way they want to. The word retcon comes from retroactive continuity. The word retroactive means after the fact. Continuity means continuation. After the fact continuation does not mean erasing of continuity. That would be delete con. Okay? Retcon means retroactive continuity, means going back and tying something from the past that was written in the past to something that is set in the future. That's all retcon means, and somehow we've bastardized the meaning of that term to
Yeah,
mean
that's
delete con, which is stupid. Think about that. Think about how dumb. If you ask somebody, what does retcon mean then? They go, oh, it means get rid of continuity. I'm like, no, but what does the term mean? Like, where does it come from? Retroactive continuity. Okay, what does the word retroactive mean? No. And they'll argue with you all fucking day. This is like when Republicans argue with you about how Trump is right about everything. And you're like, but nothing he says is true. And they're like, no, this is how it fits. It's exactly the same thing with retcon and so many other definitions that people get wrong. They don't
yeah.
understand.
Again, like you say, that's
And I feel
society
that
now.
way
There's
about
no,
when you re-review a movie or review a movie 50 years later or 30 years later, you have cheapened the kind of quid pro quo between critic and, or if you want to call it a quid, you watch a movie and then you give a review, right? And if
yeah.
you have waited 30 years to hear what everyone else has to say, your review should not count. It's what I'd be. Oh,
No,
I'm
because
sorry.
it may become biased to one side, one
Exactly.
opinion.
That's why.
And influenced by opinion as well,
Yeah.
which is another thing. But
And that's why, does Empire suck? Yeah. In 1980, a lot of people thought it sucked.
yeah, they did.
A
And
lot of
I
people did not
go
like
back and read
it.
those reviews.
I was a kid. I remember talking about it when Return of the Jedi was coming out, and I had not seen Empire. There's a reason for it, but I had seen A New Hope. I had not seen Empire yet when Return of the Jedi was coming out. And I remember that's why it's such an impression on me, the way people talked about Empire. Kids, I'm talking about kids now in school, did not like Empire Strikes Back. They thought that movie sucked. And
Why do you think that was? Why do you think
well,
that was?
because just look at the way the movie ends, and and this is 1980. Like, our heroes didn't lose in movies, so that's why, but that was
And I
in
guess
the moment, that's how people perceived it. So when Return of the Jedi came out, they're not a fucking kid. Like, people have reinvented their memories to fit with, whatever they want to believe as an adult. No one was like, oh, Ewoks. No, what? We didn't give a shit. We didn't care that Ewoks were little teddy bears.
that's what I mean. Like, as a kid when I first watched, and I watched first the unaltered, the original versions. My dad showed them to me on VHS. They were the first versions I watched, and Return of the Jedi was always my favorite as a kid. You had the big space battle, you had the cuddly little bears, you had the walkers, you had the big fight, you had the great lightsaber duel at the end. It was always my favorite. You had Jabba's palace, all the creatures and everything. It always was my favorite as a kid. As I got older, that opinion changed because I start looking at the story, the values of the story, and I think I prefer now. I like the mysticism of Empire and the scenes with Yoda and Luke sitting and talking and stuff like that. But as a kid, I wasn't interested in that, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think that's why the kids, when I was, in 1983, that's why they said that Empire sucked, because they didn't get it. It wasn't really for them.
As a kid, I would watch the snow battle. I'd watch the 80s, and then I would sort of either forward it or just maybe go and do something else. Pardon me, until the end of the film when Vader and Luke fight. And it's weird because I guess as if you were 4, 5, or 6 and you were watching Empire, would they? There's a chance they're going to shut off halfway through that film because a lot of it is Han, Leia in a ship.
Yeah, not a lot is happening basically for a large period of the movie.
I think that's again why people perceive it as the darkest film, because it's more. There's less, big grander space battles and ships and
also
stuff like
it is
that.
the darkest in that I think it's the darkest, like actually darkest, and I've actually talked about this before. It's filmed darker than all the other ones.
Yeah, whereas aside from Hoth at the start, the rest of the film is set in a very...
to me, Return of the Jedi is the darkest, like emotionally darkest of all the movies, because throughout the entire movie, you feel like Luke is going to sacrifice himself. The whole movie is about him, like, basically doing a thing he doesn't want to do, And
his
I think that's much darker.
Himself, so at the end, it's
a really dark movie when you think about it, and the fact that Vader is basically using his, like, Luke's just realized, sister against it. It's a very dark themes. The whole teddy bears fighting against the Empire, which is really about the little guy fighting against the big guy, That's what that whole thing is about, is that if you have enough courage, it doesn't matter what your size is. Size matters not. And that's what Return of the Jedi is about that. So, and that's also why Return of the Jedi is my second favorite movie, because I think there's a lot to it that's more than what people perceive.
And Richard Marquand, who's the director, is very good with suspense, and conveying a tone of, I want to say, desperation. In the third act of the film, there's a lot of suspense in the throne room, isn't there? It's very, what's going to happen? It's quite eerie. You've got the Emperor in his chair, and it's eerie, and then you've got that moment.
No, that's true. Yeah, I never really thought about that, but because we know that George shot a lot of that, the battle stuff, he did a lot of that himself, and Marquand was shot more of the dialogue stuff related to it. So I'm sure, and I'm pretty confident that he shot the throne room stuff,
which obviously is. I mean, again, that's my favorite scene in the whole of Star Wars. Is when Vader's stalking around under the broken platform that he's and Luke's hiding behind it, and that's my favorite scene. I just love everything about it. The dialogue, the way it's delivered, the way it's shot. It's just the music, everything about that scene.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so those, I think, to get back on the subject, does Empire suck? At some point it did, and then it didn't, and it changed, and you can basically ask that question about every movie ever made, and you can create a whole thread about people like saying, yeah, that sucked. Now, unless the movie didn't do that well, like if a movie doesn't do that well, I've seen this like with Dread. You know, I've seen Dread. I think it's a really good like action movie. I don't think it's great, but if you
I haven't seen
say
it,
that,
so I won't comment.
if you say that though in a thread about, you know, like people loving Dread because it didn't do well, you will get attacked. If that movie had made 900 million, people would be like, fuck that movie, it's not even as good as the Stallone version. I guarantee it. So anyway, all right, speaking of movies coming out, and I think this is a nice transition now. Guess what's coming out? Guess what's coming out? Han Solo!
Oh, yes. Yep.
The Han Solo movie's coming out in May of 2018, and they also announced the new Chewie, which we already knew about.
Yeah, he done a little letter, didn't he, to the fans and said thank you and thank you to Peter Mayhew, because he obviously. I mean, does that mean that he's officially fully taken over now? Does that mean?
No, and I think people are reading that way too much into that. He's taking over in the Han Solo movie, and I think what you're seeing in the Han Solo movie is that all those actors are new, so they didn't want Peter Mayhew to play Chewie. And I think this is something that Lucasfilm is doing. I think that this is actually why I wanted to talk about this more than anything else. Lucasfilm is setting up a future for these Star Wars stories, and I know that people have been talking a lot. I was thinking about even writing an article on my blog about this, or on anyone's blog. But we'll talk about it here. I think that what Lucasfilm is doing, and the reason you're not going to see the Knights of the Old Republic movie anytime soon, or TV show, or anything like that, is Lucasfilm is playing the long game here. And the long game includes doing more than one Han Solo movie. Doing a Boba Fett movie. I know a lot of people are kind of upset hearing that. I'm not a huge fan of them even doing a Han Solo movie or Boba Fett movie. But I think what you're going to see is you're going to see them do that, and then you're going to maybe see them do a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and all that. And the reason that they're sticking within the prequel era, I'm going to call it the prequel era because, you know, that's what it is, right? That's what Han Solo is.
It's all a prequel to the original trilogy, isn't it? Yeah.
So, and I think that's why Rogue One was a prequel. Han Solo is going to be a prequel. The Boba Fett movie might be a prequel. And then the Kenobi movie is going to be a prequel. And I think the reason they're doing that is because they have so much rich material to mine from that era, which is old George Lucas stuff. I think that it's possible that the deal they made with George, that Disney made with George, was that the first maybe 3 standalone movies had to exist in a prequel era. And I have no evidence of this. This is a complete conjecture on my part. But it would explain why they are going to be doing prequels and not anything. If you've noticed, nothing has been touched. Nothing in the books or anything in the area between episode 6 and 7. They haven't written a book about it. They haven't done a comic book about it. They haven't done a video game about it. Nothing. The only thing that's a little bit touched on was the Battle of Jakku, right? That's the only thing that they've touched on.
They got the Aftermath novels as well. Which
right. The only thing that's even touched on it is there, but none of the novels are about that. The only segments of the story are about that. And I think that may be because they're allowed to set up anything that happens in episode 7 or touches on episode 7, but they're not touching anything else for now. So it's all setting up the sequel trilogy, but there's nothing in between. I think the reason they're doing that is they're going to do this prequel stuff, and then they're going to do stories in between episodes 6 and 7. That's going to require recasting of every lead actor.
Which is why you've got this. I don't want to butcher his name. Chewbacca actor. What's his name?
Yunus Sotomo, but I'm sure his name is like Yunus Sotomo or something like that. Yunus Sotomo.
So you got him. You got Alden Ehrenreich now as Han Solo. Donald Glover as.
Yep, Donald Glover is Lando.
So
and we have no idea who the other actors are playing, but
there's that chance that they could they could eventually do a spin-off set 15 years after Return of the Jedi, and you can have Alden Ehrenreich come in as Han Solo, touch him up with a bit of makeup, make him look a little
Exactly. Well, not even, because you could do it in 10 years. So think about it. You could do that movie in 10 years and be like, okay, we already set up that that's who he is. You don't even have to do much with him. You know, he's going to be in his 30s by then. And you can not even set it 15 years after Return of the Jedi. You can set it almost exactly after Return of the Jedi. And so there are all these things that they could do, because once you set up this cast as those characters, then you could set up another trilogy maybe of what happened between 6 and 7, but you don't do it as a trilogy of a saga trilogy. That's why there's very confident or very sure to mention the Skywalker saga. The Skywalker saga will always be related to the Skywalkers, the Jedi and the Sith, or whatever they're going to be calling it, the Bendu and the Knights of Ren, whatever they're going to, whatever's coming. Or the something that a theory that we could talk about the Last Jedi, but whatever is coming, I think that they're going to focus on the Han Solo story, the Boba Fett story, and I think there's probably going to come at some point the Princess Leia story, which is why there's going to be a recasting. Obviously, it's going to have to happen, but there's going to be the Princess Leia story down the line, and that will be very important story for them to tell, because it will lead into a future story about Princess Leia and Han Solo having Kylo Ren. I think we're going to get that. I think down the line we're going to see that, and so there's going to be a recasting of all these characters, and that's how they'll get around.
I think it would be crazy not to do that, to be honest. I mean, these are the characters everyone knows and loves. I mean, I'm all for new stories with new characters. Introducing me to new lore, I'm all for it, but I think it'd be crazy to not go and tell that story about what happened between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Now, we're obviously going to get part of that in The Last Jedi and Episode 9, and it's all going to be connected to that history of what happened, why are we where we are again. But to actually go in and tell the stories of other stuff going on in between would be crazy not to do that.
And I think that the reason that a lot of us were expecting them to move the Han Solo movie to December, and I think the fact that they are, and maybe we'll find out in April that it has been, but for now,
well, yeah, because the press release said May, but on the Star Wars show they just said December, so it's kind of still like, well, what is it really? I'm going to wait until, like you say, to maybe Celebration, and I'm sure in Celebration they'll actually.
So they said slated, so we'll see. We'll see if anything changes. But if it's coming out in May of 2018, that's only 5 months after The Last Jedi. That means that they are planning 2 movies a year. There's no doubt about it. They're planning 2 movies a year. It may not happen right away, but it's going to happen by 2020.
Yeah, it's going to happen at some point. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let's transition from that to our discussion about the Last Jedi teaser trailer expectation that we're, basically when we're expecting it. And then you wanted to talk about something else about how we had reacted to Star Wars trailers in the past. Well, so let's first talk about the Last Jedi teaser. Now, we're all expecting it to come in April on that Friday, which is April, what day is that?
I want to say 14th or 13th.
Yeah, somewhere around
14th,
there. Because
I think it is.
A lot of people expected it to be Thursday, but I'm under the impression that they're going to use Thursday.
Well, they're doing that as a big 40th anniversary thing, aren't they?
Well, I believe what they're going to actually do is they're going to do some big thing for Carrie Fisher. I think there's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to do a 40-year anniversary thing, and then they're going to focus it on Carrie Fisher. I think that's what Thursday. I think initially they were going to do it where they were going to introduce The Last Jedi, and it was going to be like a whole thing, and the trailer was going to come out then. I think that's been changed, and they're going to first pay homage to Carrie Fisher and Kenny Baker probably. And then they're going to do The Last Jedi on Friday. But in any event, there were some quote-unquote leaks that the trailer was coming out sooner. It was actually this week was talked about. And all these things about, like, we know that that's all bullshit now, and we expected it to be bullshit. We kind of said it was all lies and, some 4chan leaks that were ridiculous. And I don't think...
That fucking douchebag on YouTube,
Oh, yeah, Mike Zero, who's a complete fucking jackass.
Mike Zero,
sack of shit.
Mike Zero gets right. Yeah. Zero gets anything right.
And in fact, it's a joke, and I can't even believe that people fucking listen to this guy. And unfortunately,
the Daily Express, which is a tabloid in Britain, is running
only tabloids and fucking blogs are quoting this guy. But here's the problem: is when you do that, you legitimize him to people who do not know the difference between, like, journalists and reporters. And if you're just reporting on shit, it doesn't, like, forget it. You know what? This guy is such a fucking joke. Mike Zero is a fucking joke. And he's not even as, people are comparing him to Super Shadow. At least Super Shadow is ridiculous. And no one could possibly believe him. This guy passes himself. And by the way, he will say, him and his supporters will say, no. He says that he's reporting on what he's reading. No. You. But when we called him out initially, he was saying he had sources. He is full of shit. Okay, he has no sources. He's nobody, and it's really annoying that. You know what? I'm giving this guy too much time. Mike Zero is just a fucking full of shit. But anyway, we expect this the Last Jedi teaser to come out that Friday, so expect mid-April. And it's probably going to be near 2 minutes, probably going to be about a minute and a half. Expect to see Luke, expect to see Rey, expect to see all the main characters, and to definitely see some lightsabers ignited. I think that the expectation level for the Last Jedi teaser is nowhere near The Force Awakens. And I know that people who saw The Force Awakens have seen Rogue One and are like, oh, I'm more excited for The Last Jedi than I am for those two. No, you're not. That's impossible. We're all
nothing can be like The Force Awakens. Nothing.
No, stop it, guys. Stop saying dumb shit. There's no way, because it's not 10 years later. You just saw Rogue One. First of all, you saw The Force Awakens. Great movie. You saw Rogue One. Great movie. There's no way that your anticipation level could be anywhere near The Force Awakens or even Rogue One, because you feel confident now. Like, there's no way you don't feel confident. You have Rian Johnson making this movie. There's no way you already don't feel confident. You just saw two really good Star Wars movies back to back. There's no way you're not already fucking feeling confident. The reason that your anticipation levels were so high for those two movies is because we didn't know if they were going to pull it off. They pulled it off. Now your anticipation level is pretty much tempered because you already know it's going to be good. There's no way they can fuck this up. This is kind of like sitting around, and they could fuck it up, but I'm saying this is like when Age of Ultron was coming out. You cannot tell me that your anticipation level for Age of Ultron was higher than it was for Avengers, because Avengers was so like, we were just like, oh my god, are they gonna pull this off? Are they gonna be able to do Avengers? Like, how can you put that many characters together and make it work? And then they showed us how that works. So when you go into Age of Ultron, I think the reason that people were so disappointed with Age of Ultron, I wasn't, but I understand why people were, is because they had already built it up so much. I think it's the opposite. Going into The Last Jedi, I think it's the opposite of high anticipation. I think it's too much I think people are actually too confident going in, and that could create the backlash. So if the trailer isn't amazing, if it doesn't give you the Chewie we're home moment, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, but it wasn't like The Force Awakens, That's what I'm afraid of, is that that you're gonna have people who are gonna be like that. Personally, I was not blown away by any of the Force Awakens trailers until the Japanese one. That was the first one that blew me away. So none of the trailers, actually, none of the Star Wars trailers except for the overseas one for the Force Awakens, have really blown me away. So
really? That's
it doesn't. It's never done that. It's never done that for me. And you wanted to talk about how we felt about the other trailers that like the first one that I remember was Return of the Jedi. I remember being really excited for the Return of the Jedi, but the trailers were nothing like they are now. I think the modern trailer, which really was born with the Phantom Menace trailer, the modern trailer is so good these days that trailers from the 80s were just lame. And the Return of the Jedi trailer is kind of lame compared to... I don't remember the A New Hope trailer. I don't remember the Empire Strikes Back trailer.
The trailers are such a big thing now, aren't they? They're such a milestone, aren't they? They really like...
And artists. The people who cut those trailers are artists. Like, they know how to... They are marketing professionals. And it used to just be cut by, like an editor. And now you have a professional who cuts it. Like... Disney basically cuts all those trailers. The only people often think like, oh, Disney has their fingers in Star Wars. No. What Disney really does is the marketing for Star Wars.
Yeah,
and so the trailers that you see, there's a team at Disney that is doing. I mean, obviously the director gives scenes, and the editors and the director of the movie gives scenes to Disney, and then Disney marketing takes that and they go, okay, this is what we like, this is the story,
this is the one, this is what we want people to see and be excited for.
And they like a scene, and then they'll say, is it okay if we use it like this? And they'll be like, yeah, that's great. And there's this kind of like symbiotic relationship between the trailer maker and the director, but in the grand scheme of things, you usually allow the marketer to handle that because they're the experts. You trust them in the same way that you trust a director knows what he's doing. The studio, if a studio gets too involved in the making of a movie, then often you see these directors get really moody because it's supposed to be the director's vision. That's actually kind of what happened with Rogue One, is that they, in many ways, took away Edwards' original vision,
which
and
is
made it
actually, I'm just gonna just you saying that. Florian from Jedi Bibliotech posted that Amazon's got a link for the making of Rogue One book to come out this year, which is really interesting because obviously we're not going to get. There's no director's commentary on the Blu-ray, which is expected. There wasn't for the first Force Awakens release, that come later, but I'm not sure we're going to get a commentary because I think there's going to be stuff in there that's wasn't
they'll I think the decision has been made that everything was Garrett's decision. I think that's the decision that they've made as a collective.
So
not
there's a
to
potential
talk about
for a
Tony
commentary
Gilroy
to come on a later release at some point.
There's gonna be no talk about Tony Gilroy. I think no one's gonna.
The silent partner.
Yeah, but the making of book, if they do it the way the previous ones have been done, and we understand why the Force Awakens one wasn't put out because it's got too many spoilers for the future because they didn't make it like they did the original trilogy. But Rogue One only has maybe one reference, and by that point, I wonder if they're going to delay it because of the Mustafar thing.
That's possible, yeah. But then
so
again,
we'll
that
see.
could be
We'll see.
Referenced mildly. They might just skip past it,
Because I'm under the impression that we're going to see Darth Vader's castle in Episode 8 and 9. So we'll see if that plays out. But in any event, we were talking about the trailers. The way that I still feel like the Phantom Menace trailer is one of the best trailers ever made, and it also sells you on a movie that isn't the Phantom Menace. Like, it's more exciting than, and I like the Phantom Menace, but I feel like the trailer is so much better that out of context, some of those scenes that don't work in the movie that well work really well in the trailer. And whereas I feel like a lot of the scenes that work really well in the movie don't work for me in The Force Awakens. In the trailer, when I watched the trailer, I was kind of like, oh, I don't. That doesn't. Or even Rogue One. Like I complain. Johnny Grasso and I complain very much about some of the line deliveries in the Rogue One trailer. In the movie, it wasn't a problem.
We spoke about that as well. It's rigid and. I don't know, it was awkward, wasn't it?
Well, it's also because they use different cuts. In the movie, they don't use those cuts. And sometimes they don't even use those lines at all. And I think that's all going back to it, I think that's when Tony Gilroy came in and they reshot so many of those scenes, and that was with Tony because they did the same thing for Godzilla. And there's some really terrible scenes in Godzilla, really terrible acting scenes, and then there's some really good ones with the same actors. And we also know that Tony Gilroy came in on that. So I wonder if he's his rescuer, if he's his acting whisperer or something.
Yeah. I will continue and talk about the trailers in a sec. I just want to say that people defended the reshoots. We've spoken about this before. I think everybody's spoken about it on Twitter. Everybody's spoken about it everywhere. But there's so much evidence of the scale of it in the marketing. When you look at that first teaser compared to what we got, and not even just the first teaser, but the all of the TV shots, all of the footage that was shot, you can just see how much was shot and how much was just put to one side.
And not only that, but you actually, if you see it, the Star Wars show, the stuff that they've been showing, the reason that they're still showing material that's not in the movie is because all that stuff, Pablo actually mentioned this week, all that stuff was done 2 years ago. And so they've just been sitting on it for all this time. So even the material that they're giving us, the background stuff now on the Star Wars show, it still has stuff that isn't in the movie because they did these spots years ago or over a year ago. And it's still there because, they like that. There is no way you can't argue that, there's nothing to these were just they're not just rumors, okay? Even the trades covered this. It happened, and they're trying to sweep it under the rug now because they don't want to talk about it because and it's not because Lucasfilm is like, we don't want people to know that we, reshot a bunch of stuff, that there were problems. It's because they respect Edwards. And he's a very likable guy, and people who work at Lucasfilm will tell you he is one of the most well-liked people who's ever worked on a Star Wars movie over there. They are going to protect him because they like him. But there was a problem on that movie.
I don't want no demonizing or anything of someone. It's just, it was more a fact of the people who wanted to dismiss the original rumor reports about the reshoots. It's kind of more,
and they
saying, but they dismiss them. Just
they want to do that because it sounds better. Whatever. Listen, there are just people who don't want to believe the truth. We know we live in that world now. There are people who will say that the truth is fake and that fake information is the truth. That's what they want to believe. They are so easily lied to. There are suckers born every day.
Are we talking about that small-handed little prick claims to be president of America?
Oh my God, we're not getting political, are we? Yeah. So whatever, man. I mean, look, it is what it is. This is the world we live in now. Fake news is real news to some people, and real news is fake news because
just look what happened in Sweden last night. Just look.
Yeah.
Nothing happened in Sweden.
No.
Well, I was referencing the immigration reports. The Fox News reports. Oh man, just shut up. Seriously.
He's not gonna shut up. That's why people listen to him. But the same thing is with Lucasfilm saying, guys, this is not a problem. Everything was fine. What? Yeah. We just reshot, the report, making Star Wars report 40%. I actually think that was conservative. But in any event, trailers. So
Yeah.
So I want to say, looking at it, the Phantom Menace trailer was my favorite. I think the Attack of the Clones, the breathing trailer is really well done. It's so well done that it's been copied over and over. Like people have done the Phantom Menace. I'm sorry, they've done the Force Awakens and Rogue One trailers with the breathing. So I think that it was so well done. Yeah. But I actually liked, there was a secret trailer, and I think it may be on the DVD. There was a secret trailer that was only released on StarWars.com. It was never released to the public, like on TV. And I think it was called the Mystery Trailer. I liked that one too. I did not like the official Attack of the Clones trailer. But I remember the way we reacted to that breathing trailer. Like, the internet lost its fucking mind.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, my memory is really skewed of all of the trailers and the marketing, because the Phantom Menace, I don't remember the marketing. I actually just remember having a packet of roast chicken Walker's crisps in year one at primary school, and it had a picture of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan with his blue lightsaber ignited. And that is one of my earliest memories of Star Wars. I'd watched the original trilogy, but it was just kind of, I didn't know much about it. I just knew Star Wars. And then I saw this picture and I was like, well, new Star Wars? And then my dad told me about it and he took me to see it. I never actually saw the trailers until I got older. I remember sitting in front of the TV one morning before I went to school, and a TV spot on British morning TV was shown for Attack of the Clones. And in it was the shot of when Sam Wessel walks towards Jango Fett for the first time, and she's, you know, she's like, I hit the ship, but they used the decoy.
I think that's the mystery trailer. I could be wrong. I feel like it might be the mystery trailer.
For me, I was a huge fan of Boba Fett. You know, I'd fallen in love with this character from Empire Strikes Back, and I saw the back of Jango Fett.
Overrated loser.
But in my sort of skewed memory, he was wearing like a black armor, and I remember going to school that day and be like, Boba Fett's in Attack of the Clones, Boba Fett's in the new Star Wars movie, he's wearing black, you know. And I just remember being so excited about this, and obviously that's not what happened.
You
but
fool.
You know,
you fool.
Fool, you know, yeah. It's one of those amazing little memories. It's wrong, but at the same time,
it's actually funny you mentioned the way that you were kind of introduced to the prequels, because I actually was not following anything going on about the Star Wars prequels. I didn't read up anything, and I was in a movie theater watching. I forgot what movie it was. I was with a bunch of my friends, who some of them are still friends of mine now. And we saw this trailer, and the thing comes up, you know, like the first teaser for The Phantom Menace. And I was like, and you hear this music, and I was like, is this? And I didn't even know that Star Wars was coming. So I was just like, what? And then, you know, the music plays, and we're all looking at each other like, what? There's a new Star Wars. That's how out of touch we were about Star Wars. So from the second that teaser came out, which is the year before the movie came out, or whatever, it was like November of that year. From that point on, I read up on everything. So, but I actually went into that movie unspoiled. So that's the only Star Wars movie I've ever gone in since, you know, the original trilogy. So the original trilogy and the Phantom Menace, I didn't know that Qui-Gon was gonna die. You know, I didn't get the soundtrack beforehand, so I didn't know about Qui-Gon's end. I didn't know about any of that stuff going in.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
So it's the last movie, the last Star Wars movie that I've gone in without knowing everything, because Attack of the Clones, I read up on not every, but I read up on a lot of leaks and things like that. And Attack of the Clones had a lot of leaks. A lot of them were wrong. And then, of course, Revenge of the Sith, the basic plot of that movie leaked like 2 years before the movie came out. So
I wasn't following spoilers or anything, but again, Revenge of the Sith, again, it's weird. The memories I have of both the Attack of the Clones, it was either a TV spot or a teaser, and the Revenge of the Sith trailer were both from the same TV program that I used to watch, or my mum used to watch in the mornings when I was getting ready for school. And I remember the trailer with Darth Vader, where you see him coming up on the
oh yeah, with his hands.
You know, when he's rising up, and I remember it, just hearing the Emperor say to Darth Vader saying "Rise," you know, and then he comes up, and I remember going to school that day.
I can still hear it. I know that trailer. Like, I've watched that trailer like a million fucking
Lord
times.
Vader, yes,
Lord Vader,
yeah. Oh, it's so amazing. I remember going to school. My friends are going, "Did you see it?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Darth Vader's in it. Darth Vader, you know, he gets burned. Because my dad used to tell me stories about why Darth Vader looked like he did. He got burned because obviously my dad had probably read the making of books or something. I didn't know about these things. Again, I was just too young to read these making of books. I used to get the cross sections and look at the inside of the ships and stuff. That was what
I don't even think that's where we got it from. I think it was from an interview with Lucas, like in the 80s, where he actually talked about it. So I think that's where that comes from. So we knew about it because of that. Yeah,
and again, when the Phantom Menace came out, I literally only just seen the original trilogy, so I didn't, and I was 5, 6, so I really wasn't that aware of what was going on. I wasn't aware of story and stuff. And I remember my dad saying to me when we were watching the Phantom Menace, that's the Emperor. You know, when Sidious is in his hologram, and I was like, and I remember that revelation.
Why did he spoil that for you, man?
Yeah, I know.
Because I watched that with my cousins who had never seen Star Wars. They watched the prequels first, and they had no idea. And it was so interesting to watch them watch the fan, because by then all the movies had come out. I'm sorry, not all the movies. They started watching it in 2004. So they watched it in 2004. So it was right before Revenge of the Sith came out. And they were just like, they had no idea. So when we ended up watching the original trilogy while we were waiting for Revenge of the Sith to come out, and that's when they kind of put it together. They were like, wait, is he
what? Yeah.
Palpatine?
Yeah.
Wait, what? And that's when, so they had no idea. Like, they thought that Palpatine was a good guy.
Yeah, and I, you know, we're talking about this now, and it's making me smile because I just remembered my earliest Star Wars memories and how I perceived Star Wars then to how I perceive it now, and it's just, you know, we're in a really magical time for Star Wars right now. You know, we are so lucky to be able to have the content we've got and the quality it comes out on now, Blu-ray and everything. But those moments of really not quite understanding it, but knowing it, and they're some of the most amazing memories I have of Star Wars. Is, you know, like the Revenge of the Sith trailer, like we just spoke about then, that and finding out that Palpatine, you know, putting the two and two together, and you got Darth Sidious is the Emperor. So it's so incredible. And again, the Force Awakens, the first teaser that dropped where Finn pops up in the desert, that was very, for me, was like, wow, it's really happening.
Yeah.
The second teaser from Celebration was I was sat in exactly the same place I'm sat in now, and I watched the panel, and I really enjoyed the panel, and I was really excited, and then the teaser come on, and I sat there and I watched it with my headphones, and I was watching on the computer, and I was like, is this really happening? This is Star Wars, it's coming back, you know. And then it's when Luke started talking, you know, and I said about this on Twitter the other day, and I was just like, and I could feel myself welling up because it was the music, and then it showed Vader's bird mask, and it was almost like a trip back in time, you know. It was all coming back. Everything was coming back that I'd known, and it was like it's happening not just to these characters, but to us too, you know. We are all going back in time, but in this new era, and then, you know, the music, and then just everything about that second teaser when it cuts to the TIE fighter escape, which is actually one of my favorite scenes from The Force Awakens. And it's the music, and it's, you know, the TIE fighter blasters, and it just everything. And I was, by the end of the trailer, and then Chewie, we're home, I was just in bits. I was in bits. And no movie trailer has ever done that to me before, ever. And not even the last Force Awakens trailer did it. The last one.
Well, I know a lot of people feel like you do. I think a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people talk about that Celebration trailer as like their favorite, and you know, I actually did a podcast about it with my friend Vlad afterwards, and we talked about it then. And you know, I'm not that enamored with it, and I don't even like the line in the movie Chewie, we're home. I think it's almost meta, and you know what, I'm not a fan of it, but I love I think the most effective thing in the first teaser was Snoke talking, and
yes,
and then
great,
Kylo Ren igniting his lightsaber. I think that's the most effective thing in the entire trailer.
That bit where he ignites his lightsaber is brilliant. I love that.
But
bit.
The thing that really got me, and I probably mentioned this on that podcast, was when you see what I was looking for was, you know, I could see what JJ was going to do, the way he was shooting the movie, and obviously I had an idea because I had watched all his movies.
You'd seen his other movies, yeah.
Yeah, so I had an idea, but I just needed to see it in Star Wars. So when I saw that teaser, and I said it on a podcast we did immediately after that teaser came out, I said, I'm not a fan, I don't love the teaser, but the way it looks, I am 100% confident now. I know exactly what he's going to do. And to me, when we see what Rian Johnson is doing, because we have no fucking clue what Rian Johnson's
That
going to
that's
do with this movie.
that's the thing. Yeah, that's what I'm most excited for. Like, of course, you know, seeing if Luke's in it and there's a lightsaber ignited, amazing. That'll be a great moment. But I'm really excited just to see how he's shot it, and you will get a glimpse of that in obviously the teaser. And I'm
Yeah.
really interested to see how, if we see any, like at the end of the teaser, the Falcon doing that like swoop and coming back down, and then the TIE fighters rushing
Yeah, I don't
past.
think you're going to see
No,
anything like that. But I think what you're going to see is you and I have talked about this off the podcast. But I think what you're going to see, if you want to look into what I think the teaser is going to be, and this is not based on any inside information or anything like that. It's just based on what I think we're going to see. I think look to the Doctor Strange first teaser. I think that's where I think we're going to get something. I think they want to set. I think they want us to know exactly what the movie's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're also going to touch on like familiar things. You know, they don't want to scare us. I think what they're going to do. So I think you're going to see like familiar beats, but I think you're going to see a couple weird things that we've never seen before.
And
I think a lot of the fake trailer stuff that you've seen, like where people are talking about like, oh, here's a description what the trailer is going to be. All of them are way too generic. And I think what you're actually going to see.
It was the same, wasn't it, with the Force Awakens? The first rumors that were coming out on the Reddit and stuff, they were just far too generic and far too.
Yeah, they don't understand how
real,
you're going to market it to. You're not going to market it to fans who already are going to see it. You're marketing it to people who are maybe going to be on the fence too. So you want to say to somebody like, hey, if you didn't, I think this is what they're going to do. If you loved The Force Awakens, you're going to love this movie. If you didn't love The Force Awakens, you're going to find this movie really intriguing. And I think so I think they want to not just hit all the beats that you've seen before. I think they're going to hit a few beats you've never seen before. I think that's so that immediately this is not The Force Awakens. This is not Rogue One. This is... In fact, this is the opposite of Rogue One. This is Jedi. This is Jedi. Yeah. This is a full fucking force.
Yeah.
All force all the time. I think, and I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do, just because of that. But I cannot wait to see the way this movie has been shot. That's what we're gonna find out. And how many like weird noir fucking shots are we gonna get in this
those
movie?
references I'm really looking forward to. Yeah.
Because I think we're gonna get some. I think we're definitely gonna get some because there is everything that he has shot. Okay, we have 3 examples. We have Looper. I mean, we have Brick. We have Looper, and we have one episode.
And the Brothers Bloom as well.
Okay, but
the 2 Con brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the Breaking Bad, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that and the Breaking Bad. There are noir shots, though I'm talking about the 3. I haven't seen the other. There are noir shots in everything that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So there are gonna be some in The Last Jedi. I can't imagine there won't be. There'll be something weird. And I want to see how he shoots it. If he does a lot of low camera angles, if he does something like that, we're going to see it in the teaser.
Someone asked him on Twitter if he had used any, I'm going to butcher this name now, split diopter shots.
Right.
And I was like, what's a split diopter? So I went on Google and I had a look at some references of what that shot is. And it's where your perspective is forced. So it's like half of the shot is a clean of the background. It's a clean shot of the background, and the other half is a clean shot of what's in front of your face. It's like forced perspective.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, there's one.
Yeah.
And I was
and that's exactly how he shoots. That's exactly how he shoots, and that's what I am so intrigued. And I can see him using that with Kylo Ren a lot.
Yeah, and something in the background, and that would be.
Yeah, it's a very eerie way to shoot too. and it would be a great way to shoot some Force stuff. And we already know that we're gonna get some. Well, at least we suspect that we're gonna get some sort of Force back type stuff, like what they did with the Force Awakens, but more of it. And I think it's safe to say that we're gonna maybe even get a lot of it. So it would be interesting. Now, I was watching the Jedi Council this week, and they mentioned that Rian Johnson has said that there's a lot of flashbacks, and I can't find a single place where that's said. So I don't know where they came up with that.
No, I don't think he's ever said that, as far as I can remember. Was it them who come up with that? Was it them who said that?
No, they said that someone said it, but I think maybe they're watching Mike Zero or something. No, I'm not saying I'm not saying that that's incorrect. I'm just saying it's not been said anywhere.
No,
so I think that. But I don't think that that's an incorrect way of looking at it. I think that is very likely in the story. I think we're going to see flashbacks, but I think that we're not going to see flashbacks as much as we're going to see forcebacks. I think that's much more likely, and I think it will be interesting if we see some Force futures or Force forwards, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We might see a bunch of things like that, and I do think that we're going to see some new things with the Force, and it will be interesting to see if we see that in the trailer. But we'll see. I mean, we're less than 2 months now away from it. Yeah, it's gonna get real exciting soon, guys. It's gonna get so exciting, and I can't like express to you really my visual expectation, like, because for me to say, like, oh, I want this trailer to be this, it is not what I'm looking for. Just like with The Force Awakens and just like with Rogue One, I wanted to see how they were going to shoot it. That's why even though I didn't love the Rogue One trailers, I was like, at least it's going to look good. And I knew he had a great cinematographer, and there's a great cinematographer on The Last Jedi. So I'm confident that I'm gonna like the movie, and I just want to see how he shot it. That's really it. That's my great anticipation of
we
this.
Need that first look, don't we? We need that first look to go, well, yeah, this movie's gonna look great. Even though it's gonna look great, I want to see those colors. I want to see how he shot it. It's not long now.
All right, let's talk one more thing, and that's only because the Oscars are tomorrow. Woo! Have you seen any of the Oscar nominated movies? Have you seen any of them?
No.
You haven't seen any of them?
Which ones have been nominated? I know La La Land. Moonlight's another one that's nominated, isn't it?
Moonlight, La La Land.
No, I've not seen them too.
Wow. And a bunch of other movies. But what do you call it? Hidden Figures has been nominated.
My trips to the cinema were very few and far between. Towards the end of last year,
I'll tell you. I think La La Land is going to win almost everything, and
personally, I've seen a lot of talk about it. Yeah,
I think Moonlight should win, and I think that's the far more powerful movie. And
I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. Actually, I've read a few reviews about it, and I've
the end scene. The end scene in that movie still has stayed with me since I saw it. I saw it a long time ago. And I still think about that because it's so effective, and it's such a slow burn type of movie, and it's really beautifully shot. It's another one of those movies that's gorgeous. Like, it's so well shot. Like, cinematographers, all these young cinematographers are fucking brilliant. Yeah. And Arrival, that's probably my favorite movie of the year. Arrival.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, which is I'm really annoyed I haven't seen that one yet. But I think
that's the cinematographer of that is shooting Han Solo, so that's a really good reason to see how beautifully shot that movie is. Yeah. And but I think La La Land is gonna win everything. I think Moonlight should. And my favorite movie of the year that's not nominated was Patterson, which has Kylo Ren in it.
He's the bus driver, isn't he?
It's such a sweet movie, man. Nothing really happens in it, and it's just a movie about a guy who loves his life and loves his wife. That's it. That's the movie, and he writes poetry.
Sometimes you just need movies like that, don't you?
Yeah. And there's actually 2 moments in the movie that are like where you're like, oh my god, they're playing this for like there's a dramatic moment, and it's not what you think it's gonna be. Like, both dramatic moments in the movie, you think it's gonna be like, oh shit, this is when it go, and it doesn't. Nothing happens. Like, and I love that about the movie is that, and I've read someone say, oh, there's a couple of really convenient moments, like where he runs into two people who share his common interest, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, it's because that happens in life. Like sometimes you run across somebody and you're surprised that they're into what you're into.
Yeah, and you end up having a conversation about it. And you're really, I think, really excited about.
You pretty much just figured out what happens because that's exactly what
they're
happens.
both really excited about that they like the
That
same
thing,
thing. And,
yeah. It's
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
weird kind of coincidence that you run into another poet, you know?
yeah, and I read a couple of interviews with Adam Driver about Patterson, and he'd said he actually learned to drive a bus for the film, and he'd been out and learned to drive a bus,
Yeah.
and I thought that was brilliant.
It's
He's
a
actually,
beautiful movie, man. Go watch it the second you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna prioritize that one. Yeah, yeah.
And
But
I
as for
think
the other ones I haven't seen, I will go back and watch them, and then when I've watched them, we'll do a discussion on them. I think that'll be good.
Good. Because I think we should, but I do think La La Land, and I listen, I love La La Land, and I think the ending is one of the most romantic movies I've seen in a long time. Like it is the definition of romance. Is the end of that movie. When you see that movie, people think like romance is like, oh, flowers and love. No. Watch La La Land. The end of that movie is the purest definition of quote romance unquote. And once you've seen that movie and you go, what does he mean? That's not romance. No, that's because you don't understand what romance is. This is why it's important to know the meaning of words. Okay, to understand the meaning of fucking words and know that retcon means retroactive continuity. It doesn't mean delete continuity, you dumb fucks. I hate all of you who use retcon constantly to mean the wrong fucking thing. Sorry. I went on a rant, and I think that's it. I think that's the end of our discussion.
Yeah.
Because we were gonna do emails, but I've run out of time. I can't do emails today. We'll do emails next time. Yeah, and write to us, knightsofouterren@gmail.com. Write to us if you want us to answer something next time. Next time we'll maybe we'll just do listener emails next time. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Unless something big has happened, we never know.
Yeah, if something huge has happened, Maybe Mike Zero will leak the Last Jedi trailer.
How many fake scripts has Mike Zero read now that he said he got from an insider?
They're not fake, man. They're alternative scripts.
Oh, I apologize. Alternative fact scripts. I apologize.
Yeah, the alternative fact scripts.
Yeah, Fox News will soon be putting that out there. Yeah, I understand.
They came from Sweden, I think.
Sweden, yeah, because there's lots of bad fucking hombres.
Stuff happening there last night.
Lots of bad hombres leaking scripts from Sweden.
Yeah, we're gonna send the military down there, man. Sort out those bad hombres.
All right, man. That's it. Podcast over, motherfuckers. Talk to you later, Josh. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.